So for you, it is the ability to create life, and that's basically what makes you a woman.
Femininity and womanhood is so much more than just, getting dressed up and putting on makeup and just the way I feel. It's who I am on a biological level.
A few days ago, Jubilee released a video titled, "Do All Feminists Think the Same?" And based off of the comments, I'm gonna go ahead and say no, they don't. This video has sparked a lot of discussion because a lot of the points brought up in this video go directly against what feminism actually means and stands for. So, not ideal. It should be noted that I do consider myself a feminist. I have for a very long time. I'm also very, very, very left-leaning. That's obviously going to affect the lens that I'm watching this video under. I have quite a few problems with Jubilee, and I have for a while, but I think it'll be easier to introduce those problems as I actually watch the video. It'll be a better segue. So anyway, let's get started.
Men can be feminists.
First, I'm going to answer the question myself so I can share my own opinion, and then I'm gonna see where everybody lands when they answer the question, and then respond to that. I strongly agree with this one. Obviously, there are certain aspects of womanhood that men, especially cis men, will just never understand. They don't have that lived experience. But I don't think that prevents them from standing up for women, advocating for women, using their privilege in favor of women. I 100% think men can be feminists because most of the men that I choose to associate myself with are, so.
I think most men that are feminists are usually either lazy, virtue signaling, just want to see tits, or access to easy sex.
I 100% understand why she feels that way. I really, really do. And I'm not trying to invalidate her feelings because I know that there are men out there who do stuff like this and it's very, very shitty. That being said, part of feminism is demanding that men are held to a higher standard when it comes to how they treat and interact with women. So my question is, what exactly are we fighting for if we think men are incapable of being held to that standard? They can meet that standard. It's not a very high standard. Not only is the footage that you're currently watching my second take trying to film this video, but pieces of the footage are missing! So hi, I'm editing Aiden. I'm gonna be popping in every once in a while to add additional thoughts where footage went missing.
I think it depends on your definition of feminism. Like modern day feminism, I would say yes. Like traditional feminism, like advocating for traditional femininity and non-discrimination in the workplace, like I think those things men can agree with.
I want to know what she means by traditional femininity because I don't think we should be advocating for traditional femininity, and I don't mean that in the way where I don't think women who make the choice to live more traditional lives and more feminine lives aren't valid. I think living a traditionally feminine life is a really beautiful and valid choice. I just think that it's not the only beautiful and valid choice. So I don't think we should be fighting for traditional femininity. I think we should be fighting for a woman's right to choose whatever kind of life she wants to have in general. We shouldn't only be advocating for the traditionally feminine woman. And I'm not saying that's what she's saying, but I just want to make that clear about my own personal opinions.
I see what you're saying when you're like, there's this performative feminism that a lot of guys do. So if a male feminist is like, oh, I only support like women and it's just only about that, but he's not even talking about how like feminism needs to support men or like trans people or whatever, then there is a performativeness to it.
I love that he mentions men. I love that he mentions trans people because a big part of feminism is fighting the patriarchy, and the patriarchy affects everyone. I think acknowledging that is an important thing to do, and I like his scarf a lot.
White feminist voices are too loud.
I agree with this one because I do not think that feminism can exist without intersectionality. And in order to understand intersectionality, we have to elevate the voices of other marginalized groups. A person's womanhood does not exist in a bubble. It's directly influenced by their other identities and other aspects of their life. I don't think it's bad for white people to fight for feminist causes. Obviously, hi, I'm a white person fighting for feminist causes. But I'm also fully aware that white people tend to get listened to significantly more, and that's obviously not a good thing. When people only ever hear about feminism through white voices, it erases the complexities of intersectionality. It erases the fact that feminism is for more than just white people, and it gives a lot less attention to marginalized groups that often need our voices. Right now, feminism is viewed as a very white thing, and I don't think it should be because feminism is for everyone. It's it's not just for white people. I am obviously white, so I'm gonna take a little bit of a step back and just play their responses.
Somewhat agree that white feminist voices are too loud, but then I think that they become really good at using black women or black faces when they want to, you know, push their movement further. I just hate like when some of these movements use black women when it's convenient for them.
There's not discussion about the Latinas immigrant, how they get treated on the feminist movement. You know, it's always about either the pro-choice side or something else that is more interesting to white.
I'll read off a list of public figures and you'll go to your left if you believe the person to be a feminist, or the right if you don't think they're a feminist.
So I'm gonna do that too. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this one. I'm just mostly gonna share my opinion so we can move on to the more pressing questions.
Kim Kardashian.
I don't think being a successful woman automatically makes you a feminist. I don't really keep up with the Kardashians, but so it's hard for me to have an opinion on this one. I just don't know enough about her to have a strong opinion.
Amy Coney Barrett.
Absolutely not. She might be a woman who has power, but she's using that power to take away power from other women. Just because you're a successful woman doesn't mean you're a feminist. I think what she could represent could be considered feminist, but I don't think her as an individual and the ideologies that she fights for could be considered feminist. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Amy Coney Barrett, in my opinion, is like the epitome of a feminist.
Okay, everyone's, okay.
J.K. Rowling.
Absolutely not. She's a TERF. Just because feminist is in the acronym for TERF doesn't mean she's a feminist. Before all of her transphobia was exposed, I probably would have been inclined to say yes. She was one of the first women authors that I remember reading. She's a successful businesswoman, yada 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 yada. But now, I would not say she's a feminist. I don't think anybody who is a TERF is an actual feminist. Trans women are women, and I don't think that us as feminists have the right to decide which women do and don't deserve to be fought for. A very big thing for me and my feminism is the idea of intersectionality, the idea that feminism can't just be the fight for one type of woman, it has to be the fight for all women. And when I say you have to fight for all women, that includes trans women. Actively excluding a group of women because you don't think they deserve rights is not a good feminist thing to do.
I mean, I disagree that just for the fact that she expresses her own opinions, and now people like literally crucified her and really want to put her under and undermine everything she has done, you know?
Well, see, it's not just her opinions. What she's saying is factually incorrect, and it just shows a complete lack of understanding of the issue. Someone who has such a fundamental misunderstanding of an issue should not be one of the most prominent voices talking about it.
That when you're talking like this very extreme stuff about a marginalized group, that's really the issue.
Why should women like with a platform be forced to align with the mainstream narrative of what it means to be a woman and a feminist?
I don't think that just women need to be silenced online. I think anybody who has a massive platform, and believe me, J.K. Rowling has a massive platform, needs to be responsible and educated about the things that they use that platform to talk about. The amount of people that J.K. Rowling can influence is unfathomable to me. So no, I'm not mad at her for spewing transphobic nonsense because she's a woman. I'm mad at her for spewing transphobic nonsense because it's transphobic nonsense. She has a massive platform that she needs to be responsible for. That's something that comes with any platform. Her ideology and the things that she has said against trans people has been quoted in anti-trans legislation.
And her ideas about trans men have affected legislation.
So it's not like she's just some person with a Twitter account spewing hate.
Not that it's an opinion, it's that she's spreading a lot of dangerous misinformation.
But based on what though? Because you don't agree with it?
No, it's scientific facts. Like, she's just talking about stuff that's incorrect.
He's correct.
Trans women are women.
This is the question that scared me the most. First of all, let me answer. Abso-fucking-lutely. Yes, trans women are women. Trans men are men. Non-binary people are non-binary. And that is an indisputable fact. And I think right here is a really good example of the problem that I have when it comes to Jubilee and their content. content. Questions like this aren't up for debate because one of them is a scientifically proven fact and one of them is ignorance. What Jubilee does when it presents questions like this is that it holds both of these opinions as if they have the same validity when that simply isn't true. Trans women being women is not debatable. I think this problem can also be seen a lot in their videos where it's like, can blah 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 and blah 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 see eye to eye. A lot of those times, those videos are marginalized group that is directly and dangerously affected by the topic, and people not part of that marginalized group that just don't like to look at said marginalized group. The stakes are not the same. The arguments don't hold the same level of validity when one side is factually correct and the other isn't. And it puts people in minority groups in a situation where they have to sit there and debate their own existence, and they shouldn't have to prove that they deserve to exist as the people that they are. Trans women being women isn't a debatable topic because trans women being women is an indisputable fact. Trying to argue against that is pointless. You're immediately disproven by pretty much all science. And to pretend like people who disagree are just as right and their opinions are just as valid is ignorant and it's dangerous. I can debate the most effective ways to include trans people in feminism. I can debate the different ways this type of intersection should be handled in this context, but I cannot and I will not debate the validity of a person's identity. And I will not debate the indisputable fact that trans women are women. It's not a debate. It shouldn't be a debate.
3, 2, 1, go.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I think it's also split between, all the men are on that side and all the women are on this side.
And the video has already stated that men can be feminists. Oh my god. Oh no.
I know, being a woman, that there are certain things that we have to deal with as women that people who are not biologically women don't have to deal with. I mean, we have to deal with having our periods and go through that really awkward stage when we're 13. And
correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't a huge part of feminism that women are worth more than just their bodies? Arguments like this are just reducing women back to their bodies. This is something that we're supposed to be fighting against. I thought we all agreed that this is bad. Women are so much more than the bodies that they live in.
Are the differences just chromosomes, just having children? That's so hurtful and discriminatory against women, because femininity and womanhood is so much more than just getting dressed up and putting on makeup and just the way I feel. It's who I am on a biological level.
You just said that womanhood is more than just getting dressed up and putting on makeup, and that you know you're a woman because you feel it on the inside, and that it's just who you are because it's an inseparable piece of your identity. And you know what? I agree with everything you just said until you had to pretend that proves trans women aren't women. You just described womanhood as a fundamental part of your identity that can't be changed, that comes from the inside. You realize that's how trans women feel, right? You're so close! You're so close to getting the point! You're so close to getting the point. That's literally what trans women feel. That's the whole point. You're so close to getting the point.
I think you're a masculine woman or a feminine man. That doesn't make you that gender. And to try to deny just basic biological facts, we all learn this in high school. Let's stop acting like it's something new and different now because it's the hip thing to say.
She's definitely confusing sex and gender. Being born female is biological, but being a woman is not. There's a very distinct difference between sex and gender. And the complexities of those relationships is a lot more complicated than she's giving it credit for. Trans people are the gender that they identify as. You can't argue against that. The fact that you disagree with that doesn't make it any less of a fact. Again, that's just why I have a problem with Jubilee presenting questions like this. I promise you that gender is so much more complex than your high school biology class, and biologists will agree with me.
I think there's a lot of conflating of being female versus being a woman. Being female is chromosomal, it's what you're born as. Being a woman is a societal construct. They can align, yours obviously all align. You pointed over here, you're all the men over here. First 30 years of my life, I was a woman. I transitioned.
I cannot imagine how difficult it is for him to sit there and listen to such blatant transphobia, watching the validity of his existence be debated in front of him as if it's a fun debate topic and not something that's actively affecting his life. Props to him for dealing with with this. Jesus Christ.
It's a disconnect with what you're born as and what you feel you should
So
be.
gender dysphoria.
Yes.
Okay, I can believe that. I 100% could believe that. Yeah.
If it was just like, I just wanted to be a masculine woman, then sure, that's easy to do. But that didn't work. I'm not gonna say I'm male. I wasn't born with XY. That'll never change. And no trans person will ever tell you they're biologically born that way. Because if anyone knows anything about biology, it's trans people. And it doesn't take away your womanhood if someone else is a different type of woman. It's a different experience that shouldn't make you feel less of a woman if they're around or vice versa.
Yep. Just because a trans woman has a different experience than cis women doesn't mean that she's any less of a woman. Again, this kind of goes back to that idea that you can't be a feminist without believing in intersectionality. Being a feminist means standing up for the rights of women, and in my opinion, that has to mean every woman. Trans women, black women, disabled women, Jewish women, the list goes on and on. All women. Saying trans women can't be women because they have a different experience invalidates the fact that every woman has a different experience. A queer woman is going to have a fundamentally different relationship with their femininity than a straight woman because their womanhood is directly affected by their queerness. A disabled woman is going to have a fundamentally different experience with womanhood because their womanhood is directly affected by their disability. And this can be said for any group of people. This is just another reason why I think intersectionality is so important, because there's such a wide range of experiences. And again, claiming you can only be a woman if you have a vagina and a uterus reduces women back down to just their bodies. Something that we're supposed to be against. And what about cis women who can't get pregnant? Are they suddenly not women anymore? Is their womanhood not valid to you anymore because they don't have that experience that you claimed is a necessity? TERF ideology doesn't hold up under the tiniest microscope, and I think TERFs should really take a moment and wonder why that is.
Do you all feel like the feminist movement should be fighting for trans women within that movement?
I don't think so. I think it defeats the entire movement.
I don't think you're a feminist if you think you have the right to pick and choose which women deserve to be fought for. Feminism is for all women, and if you disagree with that, then I think you have a really narrow-minded and shallow view of what feminism actually is and what it can actually do.
Every feminist should be pro-choice.
I think it's perfectly fine if you're pro-life for yourself, but politically, I think you need to be pro-choice. You need to support a woman's right to choose, have autonomy over her own body, and agency over her own life.
I consider myself to be a pro-life feminist, and I think that the idea that we can tell women that they can't identify as feminists unless they say that they're pro-choice goes totally against everything that feminism stands for.
I think we should support the freedom of choice, the freedom of speech, regardless of the lifestyle that that woman wants to choose.
This seems like a valid critique because, of course, women should have the right to choose, but your political stance is directly opposed to women having choices. That seems pretty hypocritical to me. How come you get to decide when women do and don't deserve to have a choice? Something isn't adding up.
If you personally feel you're pro-life, that's fine. Feminism as a movement should be pro-choice to allow anyone to choose whatever path they want to have. But if feminism is pro-life, then you've blocked one group of people from choosing whether they want to have abortions or their own family planning.
He says it perfectly. I have nothing to add.
One of the pushbacks that I would just love to give is I believe that abortion is wildly discriminatory against women and against people with disabilities. Baby girls are aborted at a higher rate, which is so sexist.
I promise you that most people in the United States don't get abortions because they don't want to have a baby girl. Now, getting rid of kids that they think might be disabled is a completely separate problem than what we're actually talking about. That obviously is a problem. It's obviously wrong. It obviously needs to be addressed. That's not what we're talking about right now. Most women don't get abortions because, oh boy, I don't want a baby girl. They get abortions for various different reasons. And it's so easy to find those reasons online.
Menstrual products should be free.
I do think menstrual products should be free. I'm also anti-capitalist, so I think lots of things should be free.
Just
Besties, we're trying to make things cheaper for you. Why are you fighting us?
Is this like a pandemic of women like bleeding through their clothes or something? Because I've worked with low-income families. This is never an issue I've ever heard other than on social media. Now, are there instances or may there be segments in people's lives where they need like things or they need help or they need the community to get behind them? Absolutely. But I don't think it's this huge crisis that everybody is making it out to be. I just have not seen it.
Just because you've never encountered a problem doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. I've never been to the Amazon rainforest. I still know deforestation's a real problem. A quick Google search showed me that about 500 million people globally lack access to adequate facilities for menstrual hygiene management and menstrual products. I also found that a survey that was conducted from St. Louis University found that 64% of the women polled couldn't afford to purchase period products during the previous year. 21% of them faced these difficulties on a regular basis, and nearly 50% of the women surveyed said that they had to decide between food and period products due to financial difficulties. The study also said that people who didn't have access to menstrual products used cloth, rags, toilet paper, and sometimes even used diapers or paper towels taken from public bathrooms. That Google search took me maybe 30 seconds. So yeah, just because a problem doesn't directly apply to you doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And I think that is a very ignorant and small-minded way to deal with issues going on in the world around you.
Every woman should be a feminist.
I don't really have a strong opinion on this one. You can choose to identify as a feminist or not. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to associate yourself with a group of people who are actively fighting for you, who support you in your existence and believe that you deserve to be treated better than you're currently being treated, and just a group of people that are overall just trying to make your life easier. Like, if you're a woman, I'm just going to assume that you think you deserve to be treated with respect. And surely you understand that if a lot of the things that are being fought for happen, your life will be drastically easier. But at the same time, I'm not gonna force labels onto anyone. I don't care what words you use to describe yourself. I personally think that being a feminist and using that word proudly and acknowledging the fact that you are worth more than the world tells you can be a very empowering thing, but I don't think it's necessary. You don't have to use the word feminist. I think there are a lot of people who are feminists who don't even realize that they are. So yeah, I don't really have strong opinions on that one. So yeah, that is the Jubilee video. Guess I don't agree with feminists. Oops. Gonna go steal women's rights now. Hopefully you guys understand how wacky this video was and how much it so desperately wants to represent a political ideology that it so obviously doesn't. I don't really have much more to say. This is the second time I'm filming this video because my audio file got corrupted. I'm so sick of talking about Jubilee. I was a lot nicer in the first video, so hopefully I'm not watching this footage and thinking like, oh damn, you're being really mean. But like, at the same time, some of the stuff they said should never have been debated. Just one final reminder that women are awesome and deserve to be fought for. Trans women are women and their identities have and always will be valid. That is that. But thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye!